For those who don't know Laurel, Laurel's a registered social worker who's lived in Kenora for the last 3.5 years. Before moving to Kenora, she completed her BSc in psychology at Trent, her BSW at Lakehead. This past summer, she also completed her MSW at the University of Waterloo. Laurel previously worked as a frontline child and youth mental health therapist before moving into the management role at the Hub. Laurel's a strong believer in harm reduction and trauma-informed practice and values, and values the opportunities the Hub offers in terms of meeting young people where they are at. Outside of work, Laurel is an avid knitter, climber, and camper, and can be generally found with her partner, cat, and her dog. Now, with that, the timing is excellent because May for the Rotary is Youth Services Month. With that, Laurel, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Ron. So yes, I am the current manager of the Hub. I've actually also recently moved into the acting interim director of child and youth mental health at Kenora Chiefs Advisory. So I'm semi-transitioning out of this role and into that one. However, we'll probably still have my fingers, toes, and any other access to the Hub as possible, as I'm quite passionate about the program. So I put together a brief presentation. Okay. So a brief overview of the Hub for those who aren't aware of our program. So the Kenora Youth Wellness Hub is a part of a Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario, which is a provincial strategy to change how services engage with young people. So the Hubs actually started off as a pilot project following a research project done by CAMH that investigated different youth integrated service hubs across Canada and Australia. So in Canada, the most prominent one is Foundry, which is based out of BC. And then Australia also has several different models as well. The purpose behind the hubs was to mediate the fact that a lot of youth weren't able to access services or they weren't accessing the correct service. So the general idea of the hub is that it's a one-stop shop for youth services, and then we're connecting youth to the correct service at the right time with as few barriers as possible. And that sort of idea runs underneath of all the different services that we offer at the hub and is involved in how we make decisions. This is a brief overview of our team. So there's myself, the program manager. We have a mental health and substance use clinician, Julie. Jordan Cardle is our drop-in coordinator, which is an enhanced peer support role. Josiah Penner is another peer support worker. Kieran Letwiniak is our intake coordinator. Olivia Peliquin is another peer support worker. Jenna Andrews is a mental health and substance use clinician. And then Ellie is Josiah's dog, and she comes almost every day, and we value her immensely. She's very snuggly and is frequently a member of a lot of therapy sessions. We recently hosted 3 students. So we had Alicia, who was a mental health and addiction student at 7 Gens. Kirsten, who was also with us for Q4, was a BSW student through Laurentian's Indigenous Social Work program. And then Jade was from the OIS program through Confederation College, which replaced the Native Child and Family Services program. It's always a nice opportunity to get to host students. It reminds me of all the sorts of things that I learned when I was doing my placements, and it's just generally a really good opportunity to introduce students to kind of an alternative way of providing services. It's a mix of both clinical and non-clinical work. We'll get through the semi-boring stuff first, depending on the type of person you are. Maybe governance and partnership is your bread and butter. Most people tend to be more interested in our service provision, but the way that our governance is structured is pretty unique. So we are the only Indigenous-led Waihu site. So our lead agency is KCA Ogumawawitong, and they have made us a much stronger, more Indigenous-focused hub. I myself am a white settler. However, having KCA as our lead agency really encourages us to have cultural integration across the hub site, both in our service provision clinically and in our drop-in services. Because of this, we've been given a lot of opportunities by Waihu and outside agencies and partners to really speak to the importance of having indigeneity throughout the hub programming. On a provincial level, we're often called on to sort of instruct or support other hubs. And in those situations, I tend to lean on our Indigenous staff and some of the youth that attend the space to really speak to what makes us unique and different. Oftentimes, though, when people are asking how it is that we're integrating indigeneity into our services, what it comes down to is that we have an Indigenous lead agency. So ideas of relationship, and multiple forms of healing are just kind of baked into the way that we do things. In terms of governance, we are made up of over 20 agency partners. So like I said, the hub started off as a pilot project. So a bunch of agencies and organizations came together and submitted something similar to a grant application to CAMH / the Ministry of Health in Ontario. And we were selected and chosen to run a pilot site. So the pilot project was for 3 years. So we were initially funded for that period of time. And then we received annualized, AKA stable funding last March. So beginning of last fiscal 2021. Currently, these are our partners. It's a pretty diverse group. All of them are obviously service focused. Some provide in-kind services, so places like Firefly, LEAP, and the hospital, as well as WJS, provide service hours. So counseling is provided by Firefly for 4 hours a week on Thursdays. The hospital provides counseling 4 hours a week on Wednesdays. WJS was previously supplying Evelyn Finlayson, who was part of the Spirit of Youth program, and she was doing cultural programming with us. The Kenora Catholic Board provides us with Jeff Richards, who's a certified teacher. He's our education navigator. And so we're quite reliant on our governance and agency partners to provide some of the things that WIHU mandates us to provide. Specifically primary care, as we were all just talking about, getting access to services that are healthcare related in Northern Ontario and just generally in Canada can be quite challenging. Technically, each hub site is supposed to have a nurse practitioner. However, we went to WIHU and CAMH and said, have you ever been to Kenora? We don't have a lot of those. We don't really have one to spare. And so instead, we divert funds through the Sunset County Family Health Team to support Dr. Grech, Becky Shorrock, and Jen Carlson's outreach team. And so they're generally able to attend to the hub within 48 hours, or we can set up appointments with them for youth ahead of time. Another section of our governance is the Youth Advisory Council. So the integration of youth voices into the way services are delivered and so run and the space is set up is core to WIHU. The whole purpose of the services is that they are youth focused and delivered in a way that matches what youth need. The Kenora Advisory has 7 slots. Presently, we have 4 members. We're looking for an additional 3. Of our 4 current members, 2 are Indigenous youth who started off as clients of the hub. So they were folks that came to the hub already, and we sort of nudged them and identified that they might be good voices to have on that table. And they thankfully agreed, and it's been really excellent to have youth who are actively engaging in services be able to comment on how they would like to see them delivered. On a provincial scale, we also have 1 youth member on the provincial advisory and another youth from Grassy Narrows who's applied to sit on the provincial Indigenous Youth and Family Advisory Circle. The youth advisory meets monthly, as well as extra ad hoc meetings as necessary if there's bigger things that come up that we need their input on. The hub's integrated governance has been a micro demonstration of how multiple partners can come together to improve services in this area. Oftentimes partnerships in Kenora are time limited, normally for specific projects or working groups, sort of ad hoc options. This is one of the first ones that's really a dedicated site that's built on this idea of shared governance. And the partnership committee continues to meet quarterly to discuss ongoing issues, areas of need, as well as just generally celebrate things that are going well. So a part of WIHU is that we're required to provide a suite of clinical and community services. So the hub offers primary care, mental health, and substance use and care coordination, which makes up our clinical services, as well as community support such as education, peer support, employment support, and food security. These are all to youth who are aged 12 to 25 on both a walk-in or an appointment basis. Most of our appointments are walk-in. So someone comes to the hub and then requests to speak with a counselor or a teacher or is looking for primary care for any sort of issues, and then we meet that need as it comes. It's not particularly often that someone calls and schedules something more than 24 hours in advance. These services are provided by the Youth Wellness Hub team, which is that lovely set of team photos I gave you at the beginning, as well as through in-kind contributions and service contracts. A big part of the hub is land-based healing options. We make a lot of use of the KCA Youth and Family Camp. It's the old Strecker property, so 371 Strecker Road. It's a really excellent opportunity for youth and staff to connect. And through this property, we've been able to bring youth to feasts, full moon ceremonies, and are also able to provide counseling on the land instead of offices. So a lot of youth are uncomfortable meeting in mainstream office spaces for a myriad of reasons. Often they've been involved in the foster care system or the justice system and have had mandated services in office spaces. So I find that when we take them outside, it tends to have them open up a lot more and they're better able to access services in that way. I've speckled this presentation with a couple of quotes from youth who access the services. So there's good people there, and there's always someone willing to listen and help. And you can kind of see the top of Ellie, our lovely hub dog, there as well. Always happy when Ellie comes to work. Sometimes I think that the staff need her there more than the youth do. Our other clinical service is primary care. So primary care supports are primarily provided by the Sunset County Family Health Team's outreach services, as well as KCA's primary care team. We've been able to support young people in accessing necessary medications, wound care, and general assessments on a walk-in and quick turnaround appointment basis due to the accessibility of these services and the flexibility of the providers. I don't know if any of you have been lucky enough to work with Becky and Jen and Dr. Grech, but the fact that I can have a youth show up and within, depending on the urgency of the situation, like 25 minutes, have 2 nurses come and address their need, do wound care, talk about sexual health needs, get them set up with other services, is pretty unprecedented. If those youth who don't have a family doctor were sort of left to their own devices, they would likely end up going through our emergency department. And if anyone's been to our emergency department recently, they really don't need that. So anytime we're able to divert things through the primary care teams that we have access to, it's a pretty big win. Education is probably one of the biggest used community services that we have out of the hub. This is through a partnership with the Kenora Catholic Board. We have a certified teacher from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. We call him an education navigator. Again, a lot of youth have pretty negative experiences in the education field. Jeff is able to work with youth from any school board in any community. He has access to the sort of major database, so we can look up youth, see how many credits they are away from graduating, grades that they might need to work on, what sort of classes they've taken, what they need to take. And this support really allows us to support youth who are finishing their diplomas in a way that works with their life and meets them where they're at. Jeff is an excellent resource. He's happy to sit down and chat with youth in a way that isn't pressurized. He's not saying, hey, if you don't get your diploma, your life's going to fall apart, you're never going to succeed. It's always very casual conversations. He looks it up. Oh, you only have like 3 credits left. Like maybe we can pick away at this. On top of the youth we have who are trying to finish up their diplomas, we also have youth working on courses to try and upgrade their grades to go to post-secondary. It's a lovely quote from Jeff. Over the past year, the Kenora Youth Wellness Hub has provided a brave space where I can assist homeless and at-risk youth trying to further their education and wanting to improve their lives. Credit accumulation has far surpassed my expectation, with approximately 15 credits being handed out. This quote was from, I want to say Q3, at which point as you know, with COVID, things have been a little bumpy, but Jeff had only been at the school or helping us out through the school for about a year at that point. Food security. Food security is huge in Kenora. Food insecurity has been identified as a large need of the community we serve. Presently, we are packing 12 hampers per week, pretty much solely from donations. Due to the instability and lack of choice for clients, we're working to switch our food support to a general store-style food bank, we're calling the Market, where youth can select foods they would like on a weekly basis. This program should be up and running by June 1st. My staff have been frantically putting together shelves and organizing things, and it's really coming together quite nicely. This is some numbers for those who are interested in those in terms of needs addressed during clinical and community support visits. So this data is from April 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2021. As you can see, the largest number of visits we have are for mental health. And that's pretty common across the hub sites, but also fairly balanced with total community and social support needs. We only recently started tracking food security in this system, so it's not really representative of what we're actually seeing. But like I said, on a weekly basis, we're packing about 12 hampers. Approximately 6 to 8 months ago, we were more so packing like 2 or 3. It's a program we haven't really advertised due to the fact we don't really have the funds to support a full-blown hamper program, unfortunately. So those are all of our clinical and community support services. Those ones are tracked in a separate system. And then the other half of WhyWho is this drop-in support and activity. So there's a lovely photo of our arts table over there. So the drop-in space of the hub is a space where youth can connect with service providers, culture, peers, and recreation. The space is intended to feel comfortable and non-clinical. If you ever have the chance to come down there, it feels quite homey. It is in a basement. It is in the old HAPS building. I've been trying very hard to not use HAPS to describe where it is, but that's what people know. When we had the Beaver Tails trailer, it was a lot easier. I was like, oh, it's by Beaver Tails. So I didn't have to mention that it was in an old bar, but that's okay. These are our drop-in numbers. So since January 2021, we have welcomed 182 unique youth to the space. So 182 people have been oriented to the space itself. 61% of the youth we welcomed this past year to the drop-in self-identified as Indigenous. And in Q4, which would be January through to April, youth participated in activities 714 times through our drop-in, and that includes 2 months where we were pretty much closed due to COVID. And in Q4, youth specified attending the drop-in specifically for cultural programming 31 times. Quote, I never thought that I'd come somewhere like this. Would have never guessed it, but it's a blessing. I like the snacks and there's something to drink and they are open until 6 p.m. I like there's medicine / a cultural room. I also like there's the option to finish high school here when I'm ready to do so. Sadly, that client didn't want me to share their name, but they have a lovely story. So because the cultural programming is pretty central to what we're doing, I wanted to take a couple of slides to really talk about it. So Kiara is a youth who attends the hub, and through a grant that I applied to through the Indigenous Peoples Resiliency Fund, we were given $9,500 to support her in doing programming. So we're able to pay Kiara an honorarium for her to run programming in the hub, which has been really excellent. It's been awesome to see Kiara go from someone who didn't really talk at all to someone who's like teaching other people how to do things. She's a really important piece of events. And it's just really, really actively involved in the hub in an excellent way. Some highlights, we ran a moccasin making workshop. There's been ribbon skirt workshops, lots of beading, and just an opportunity with this funding to be able to supply youth with supplies they wouldn't normally be able to access. Hide is very expensive, so are beads, a lot of things. That. I'd also spoken about Evelyn Finlayson's programming. So Cultural Connections with Cookham was the program that Evelyn was running through in-kind support through WJS. She connected with young people through crafting, knowledge sharing, and activities. And then we also have a partnership with WinHack and internally with KCA, which has brought more opportunities for youth to participate in teachings, knowledge sharing, and Indigenous-focused health workshops. The hub has also been an important downtown location for KCA after-hour programming like drumming circles and Anishinaabe-Moan language sharing events. Lastly, our branding has been a key part of and adding a cultural connection. So this past winter, Waihu had updated their branding and it was pretty basic. And so luckily our MHA student, Alicia Kijik, was an excellent artist and actually created this logo that you see here, this addendum onto the side of it, which we then used on our hub van. And we were able to secure some of the similar funds we used to pay Kiara to pay her an honorarium for that art as well. And having this sort of attached reminds us how important it is to tie culture into everything that we're doing at the hub and to really try to come at things with that two-eyed way of seeing, because the population of Indigenous youth who are accessing the space is so high and because our lead agency is Indigenous. It's really nice to have open conversations with staff about cultural events and feeling like I'm being heard with my suggestions and opinions. I don't know where I'd be without the Kenora Youth Wellness Hub and all the support that I've received from the staff and the organization. That's from Megan. This is some of the more fun land-based programming. I spoke a little bit earlier to the sort of healing component of things, but we do also have land-based programming through Nietzsche's Youth Life Promotion and Casey's Right to Play program that has given us increased opportunities to get youth of all backgrounds involved outside. During the various COVID-19 shutdowns, it was really great to be able to take youth out to the property and to do activities in a safe way. And youth have generally reported our opportunities are fun and valuable. And a lot of them are really big fans of the horses, especially out of the property. Here's a couple photos of that programming in action. I'm especially in love with this drone shot of the canoes and these kids leaping off the dock. I'm very excited for summer so we can get back to doing that again. The winter programming is great unless it's -30, then it's not so excellent. Another big part of the drop-in space is our basic needs. So we meet lots of basic needs. My definition of basic is also quite broad because in our current day and age, there's a lot of things that are a lot more important than they used to be. Transportation is a big one. We provide bus tokens to youth and are able to do some transport using our hub van. In the last fiscal, we distributed 800 tokens to young people who are accessing the space. As someone who is not from Kenora, may I also just say the fact that we have wooden bus tokens is an endless source of amusement to me. Growing up close to Toronto, when the first time I saw a bus token up here, I was pretty taken aback. Food, we do currently provide the weekly hampers, as I mentioned. Through these supports, we also launched a Hub Fresh program similar to HelloFresh. So it was a meal kit program in Q3 as a free option for youth and families. Unfortunately, we weren't able to sustain that ongoing, but it was a good way to kind of finish off the fiscal year. Hygiene, youth can access a variety of hygiene items in the washrooms, and we also offer hygiene kits, things like shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, pads, tampons, Diva cups, reusable pads, really anything that people need, soap, lip balm, you name it, we probably have it, or we're willing to try and go find it. Connectivity, using a KDSB grant, we provided 63 youth with phones/plans or computers. 94% of these youth were Indigenous. And then using end of year funds, we are actually continuing this program. So we purchased an additional suite of phones and plans because the program was quite popular and really met a pretty big need. I still do have service providers, youth, families, schools reaching out and asking if we're able to support with things like this, especially phones and plans. During the pandemic, it was so important to be able to connect. That program met a pretty basic need. Traditional medicines are always available in the hub. We've got sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, bare root, and cedar. Youth can take whatever they need, and they're supported to smudge at any time in the building. We also have gender affirming support. So thanks to a donation from Trans Tape, we're able to offer chest binding materials. We also partner with Queer Peers, which is out of KSAC, to offer other gender affirming goods and supports. We do also accept clothing donations that are available in the space. They just hang out on a clothing rack in the space. There's no need for youth to ask if they can take it. They're more than welcome to go through and take what they would like or need. We also support youth to connect with the Salvation Army for thrift store vouchers. As for a little bit there, we were kind of drowning in donations a bit much. As many youth also lack access to laundry, we offer bi-weekly laundry supports through a partnership with PurePlus. And lastly, ID supports. Through a multi-agency partnership, we support youth and families in applying for replacement birth certificates. We also have an in-house ID bank, big fireproof filing cabinet, so that we can keep IDs safe and accessible for young people. To supplement this program, we have submitted a request for a birth certificate fee waiver, and we did receive money from the Community Foundation for this program as well. Kiara, the hub has helped me with literally everything. Laundry, clothes, got me a coffee maker. There's always food and it's a safe place. Everyone is always happy to see me when I come to the hub. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the future plans we have for the hub. A big one is renovations. As much as I like to pretend we aren't in an old bar basement, we are, kind of obviously. So there's things like we need new electrical. We do have plans to put in a kitchen area for life skills promotion and community building, a full washroom that's accessible and includes a shower, laundry facilities, accessible entrances and exits, and then the upgraded electrical I'd mentioned. Unfortunately, this falls outside of what our renewable funding will cover. We're not allowed to pay for capital, and renovations is included in that. So we are actively seeking funds on this and are hoping to have something done by the end of next year, because we do have a grant that's sort of sitting there unusable until we start moving on things. Pride. This year, the hub is working to take an active role in Pride Month. Many of the youth who access the space are a part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, and it's important to us these identities be celebrated. Events on tap for this June include a chosen family brunch, an outdoor movie night, art projects, pronoun pin beading workshops, and ribbon skirt and shirt making. The market that I'd spoken to, this is a photo of what we have set up so far. Like I said, lots of shelf building happening at the hub. So the idea is this is a food support option that encourages youth to build skills and aims to foster a sense of empowerment and independence. Sustainability for the program will be reliant on donations and some funds from the existing budget. We're hoping to form partnerships to support with some fresh goods. So I've reached out to Harvest Kenora. We have a really great relationship with Tracy Snow Frills. So we're hoping this is a good success. And in the community and beyond. So here's some of the past events that we've done, we've been a part of. Every year we do a back to school barbecue. It's an extension of KCA's community barbecues. The hub hosted a back to school barbecue September 2021. It was a big hit. We gave out over 100 backpacks loaded with goods, and I smelled like burgers for probably 2 weeks after this. It really sticks in your hair. We're a big part of the community event for healing and reconciliation. So the Hub team was a key part of this, as well as a planning partner. The Hub hosted a resource fair alongside tie-dye and free taco in a bag on the harbor front. In Q3, we had the opportunity to present a video during the Shikabe Makwa Indigenous Knowledge Exchange event. On top of the video, we put forward a panel made up of myself and 2 youth who access and work in the space, Kiara Orchard and Harmony Scott. And this was another example of the Hub kind of being a leader in this area. Yeah, so that is a very quick overview of everything that we do at the Hub.